Jay.
Yeah, so you just mentioned about the take home, and that kind of sparked this question. Uh, is there like how do we? I mean, is that it feels like to me take home is the way I can kind of assess, go a bit deeper, give them more real world problems, and have them solve that. But it's generally perceived. There's been a, I guess, in as sort of the pandemic's evolving and more of these interviews are happening, a generic sort of pushback against take homes is sort of being perceived among candidates where like you're wasting my time or I'm having to spend so much time to do these things. What? How do you approach that? Like, I do want to do take homes, and maybe the answer is that that's your bar. You got to go through it. If not, that candidate is not worth it. Maybe I don't know. But what's the thinking around that? Because I do think they're important, but then some candidates who are good candidates are good nuggets of gold that I might actually miss out. What's the thought on that? How do we approach this?
I have a slightly different perspective here on that also. So first of all, like take home as such is it's definitely a big loop and a big hurdle, and there is no guarantee that I'm going to get anything out of it, right? As a candidate, so I can easily see why there's a hesitance there, and it just seems like I have to jump through a lot of hoops before I can do something. As is the 4 5 hour interviews grueling. This seems like a little bit bizarre. I'm trying to equate this to the Meta's boot camping process. So in boot camping process, what happens is that you're already hired. So there is no, you're not attending for a job. You're not getting a job after this thing. But you're doing team matching, in which case you're actually sitting with multiple teams. You spend almost a week with every team, like 3 or 4 teams, and then you pick which team you want to sit with. This gives you a much, much better sense of what the team is working on and everything else and whatnot. I can easily see how a take-home test or like a little bit more involved conversation with the like making them attend your stand-up or your whatever, like team meeting would help. But the problem is that I can't see this process scale. Like it works because for boot camping it totally works. I can see it, and I really appreciate and understand how it helps me as a manager assess the strengths and weaknesses of the person, and it also helps them get a better feel because they get to spend more time with me. But on the other hand, in an interview process, it just seems too expensive, and I'm not sure if there is a better way to do the same thing, in the sense that like what I have seen work slightly better is actually making people explain what they have done in greater level of detail. It's a much harder skill to have. Like you can't scale on the interviewer side with this one. But if I were to spend like an hour with you and making you explain the product that you have built over many years, and I can go to n levels of detail and make you explain that, and you're able to hold up to that level of scrutiny without actually going into all the tech jargon and mumbo jumbo, then I think you're probably way better. Giving you a problem to solve may work the same way. I think so. My thing is that I don't think you have an alternative. Unfortunately, the take homes are the easiest ways to assess, and it's the easiest way to scale. If you lose out on people, you lose out on people. But if you have the capability to, then run the exception process for handful of candidates where you can probably do the deep dive. Like maybe 1 or 2 people, like maybe the CEO or the CTO or your principal engineer can run that for those 5 6 candidates that you really care about.
Thanks.
I love it.